again, I want to kind of hand this off to Benazir. She's going to kind of go through and this some very good examples and things that we use on a daily basis that we think that you guys can get a lot from. So Benazir, I'll let you kind of take control. Hey, Benazir, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
You're talking on mute, Benazir.
Yeah,
Hey,
for
Benazir,
some
you're on
reason,
mute.
I didn't have the mute options. They kind of got disabled. Thanks for unmuting me, Dinesh.
Okay, we got you.
Yeah, bad internet, so sorry about that. Sometimes things get stuck. All right, so thank you, Tim. And welcome everyone. I'm going to be talking about the 8 core principles of how you can humanize your dashboards. Now, Tim kind of set the pace until now, and he's been telling you about what ugly means, and ugly could cost you. So we're not really talking of ugly in terms of aesthetics. Like he said, it's making a better looking dashboard is not about the aesthetics. There's more to that. Of course, design matters, but there is layers of it, and that's what we're going to uncover now. All right. Yep. So why do we need design? Why is it so imperative when it comes to the process of dashboarding? If you look at typical Apple product or a Google product, they know what their users are expecting from when they are using this product, and they deliver exactly that. Now, that is where most of our analytical applications lack. We need to understand that the users who are going to be using our analytical applications, they use Apple products and Google products like it's second to their nature, right? So we need to meet that expectation in order for them to use our products effectively. So what works is when our outcomes are actually meeting their expectations. Now, it's a tall order to completely sweep them off their feet. But what we can at the least do is meet their expectations of what they want to achieve from your dashboard. Now, that's why we split the 8 core principles into 2 phases. The first phase we have is the usability phase, and the second phase we have is the aesthetics phase. Now, if you have a dashboarding process in place, or you're planning to have a proper ingraining design inside your process, we would advise you to go usability first and aesthetics next. Usability is more user-centric, understanding the demographics of what users you're catering to, how they interact with the applications, what kind of applications do they interact with, and answering questions like that. Aesthetics, however, is more centered around the interface that the user will be using. We'll delve into all of this soon. So what are the 8 core principles? That is divided into usability, that is user experience, and aesthetics, which is the user interface. Now, the 4 core principles under usability is to demystify, simplify, modernize, and while you're doing this, you need to be consistent with your way around it. Now, aesthetics is more about what meets the eye. So there's got to be white space. There's got to be better alignment. You need to declutter your dashboards, and very importantly, you need to look at color palette. What colors are you using on your dashboard? So moving on, let's try and delve deeper into usability. Let's try and understand usability. So demystify, what does it mean to demystify? You have to understand that the user has to consume the information on a single screen. Let's try, while creating a dashboard, let's try and limit ourselves to that real estate and not make the user kind of search for information all through by scrolling through that dashboard. Let's try and keep a dashboard to a single screen, so that there is not much pressure on the human cognition as well. Another principle in demystification is proximity and grouping. What you can do is if you place related components closer together, or even keep them inside a box while presenting it on your dashboard, it kind of gives the user a feeling that they are actually looking at related data. Summarize and condense. Why would you summarize and condense? The purpose of dashboard is to deliver summaries. Let's hold that true. Now, when one of the things that dashboard designers try to do is to deliver so many data points and so many insights at one go. They feel that the dashboard will be, mighty useful if they can give a lot of information at the same time. But again, you really need to consider the human cognition. There is no use of delivering more than what the user can consume. So summarize what you're delivering and give the user a natural way or an intuitive way to move from primary level information to secondary level information. Give them that possibility to drill and make it intuitive. Simplify. um, if you kind of put too many components on the screen, there is too much friction for the user to consume your insights. And too many components is not about kind of it. You can't call it delivering insights. Having too many components on your dashboard is actually delivering confusion, not insights. So always keep in mind, always, be it dashboard or any application development, any application design, less is more. Now, when it comes to great design, people think that your design elements that you use, it doesn't need to be of they don't need to be very complicated design elements. They need to be minimal, and they just need to add a factor of ease of consumption of information. And that is why you need design elements. Having too many logos, too much of branding, or just images on your dashboard doesn't help. Keep it intuitive. Now we'll delve into keeping it intuitive in the next slide. I'll talk about it. Now, being consistent, there is a similarity principle that's been developed by the UX UI designers. If you are showing a certain metric in a certain color, be consistent and make sure that you're repeating that same metric or the same dimension in the same color. This allows for the user to get used to your application faster. So the learning curve kind of flattens for them a little bit. Now, you can take cues from modern applications that are available on the web, and because your users are actually familiar with those web applications. So if you take cues of design from those web applications, then that familiarity helps for your users to get accustomed to your dashboard easily. Use hierarchy. Always use like heading text, subtext, be it like even if you're grouping stuff into a box, keep like a heading, and then keep chart labels separately. Use different kind of fonts and different kind of color schemes for all of these, so that people try and relate to the fact that there is some level of hierarchy of data being presented. Like I said, we were going to discuss intuitive layouts in more depth. And this is a study done by uxdesign.cc from USA. What they actually did was they tried to understand how users interact with applications and how they consume information. So this could help you in laying out the components on your dashboard. So important information like overview, summaries, or even like major KPIs, or the interactive components of your dashboard, like filters, or how you can modify what you're selecting, what they're looking at. These kind of things can be kept on the top left. That's where the users consume more information. Then you have the top right and the bottom left for secondary kind of information. So what would you keep on the top right? Perhaps filter selections that they have made that they're currently working with, for them to get a quick view of what kind of data, what kind of selections they're working with. Or even button actions could actually sit on the top right, like saving, printing, or rescheduling, anything. Now, on the bottom left, you could have probably a little bit of tabular level information in which they don't have to it doesn't have to be like quick to consume, but they can spend some time over there. Least important information on the bottom right, because stuff like pagination, which page they're on, and probably the color key or the legend of your dashboard can all sit on the bottom right. Now, the last usability principle is to modernize. The application design landscape today is like ever evolving, right? So your application design also needs to evolve along with that. So use icons, pop-ups. No need to clutter your dashboard with a lot of text. Use tooltips or hover text wherever possible. Give them options to interact with your dashboard. Make it easier for them to interact with the dashboard. Minimize options, undo, redo. These are kind of some actions that is available on a lot of web applications. So you can take cues from those web applications. Now, the other two things that are very common today are focus mode and dark mode. Dark mode is a kind of contrast play. And if any of you have used WhatsApp dark mode or Skype dark mode, you'll see it kind of lets the information pop out better. What is focus mode? Focus mode is something that I'd actually love to see someone from using web focus try it out. Focus mode is more like I'm at work kind of stuff. So what it does is, if you at the click of a button, everything that's distracting on your dashboard kind of like fades away, and you're just looking at that in your intuitive layouts, the center portion, like they're looking at just that and actually doing some analysis, right? Probably drilling down further, or interacting with your dashboard at a deeper level. Now, device agnostic, I think this we've been kind of focusing on for the past 10 years. But the best part about web focus, I guess, is that any dashboard you design is like automatically device agnostic. Now, what is this outcome of your usability phase? A bare bones skeletal framework. You understand your user, you know what they expect out of your dashboard, put one and one together, and now just draw out a skeletal framework of where what component sits. That's all that comes out of the usability phase. You understand your user and you deliver from an expectation perspective. These are the components. This is what they want to achieve from the dashboard. So this is what I'm going to provide to them. This is how I'm going to lay it out. That's your wireframe. Now, coming to aesthetics. Aesthetics is really important for people who are already stuck with a couple of ugly dashboards. If you have, like I said before, if you have a great process in place for dashboarding, then we would advise you to go usability first and aesthetics later. But like I said, most of us are stuck with some ugly looking dashboards that we would love to have some instant fixes done on, and instantly improve the way your users interact and consume information. So that's aesthetics, because instant is good. That's your aesthetic fixes. So the first aesthetic principle is white space. White space doesn't literally mean white space. And I love this saying by Miko Yuk from BI Brains. She said, unless everyone in your organization suffers from kinophobia, you can use white space. White space basically kind of balances your components out, keep like a uniformity happening between your components, reduces eye friction, and helps the user to consume your information in a more easier fashion. Now, the second principle that we're talking about is alignment. Alignment is the spine of your design. It helps you balance out all the components. It helps you organize your components. And again, it reduces eye friction. Now, because we're talking more about eye friction here, because now we're talking about the interface. That's the aesthetics. So there are two kind of things that you can align on your dashboard. One is the components. Next is the data representation. How do you align components? There is a small before and after example that's there on the slide right now. And you can see that in the after example, it becomes very easier to understand that, it becomes easier to consume, easier to the eye, basically. Another thing that you can align is the data, or the data that you're representing on, not just this data, but any chart labels and stuff that you have on your dashboards. Just ensure that you align them well. If chart labels are left aligned, then keep all your chart labels left aligned. Makes it easier for the user to get used to used to interacting with your dashboard and understanding what data is displayed. Now this slide. I mean, one word. There's just one word for this slide: clutter. There's too much going on. And I'll tell you one thing. If everything on your dashboard is screaming for attention, none gets it. You got to remember that. And that's why you need to declutter. You can declutter components, you can declutter data points, you can declutter labels and text. So how do you declutter components? You can limit the number of charts that you're using. Don't just go overboard with visualizations. Don't make people scroll inside the visualization. Like you have a widget and there's a visualization in there. Don't make the person scroll inside it. Use different kind of widget styles. Don't keep using the same 6 bar charts all over your dashboard. Not happening. Now, again, decluttering the data points. You can reduce the amount of data points. Now, this is as much a usability principle as it is an aesthetic principle. If there is just too much to consume, human cognition just doesn't allow it. So give them an intuitive way to transition from primary to secondary level information. Give them easy drill downs. Now, another really important point about decluttering with data points is when people are repeatedly using your dashboard over and over again, maybe like every day, which is like a dream come true. It should be that way. What they actually want to see is probably just the delta changes. What changed in this dashboard? What changed in this data or in this insight? So sometimes it is better to highlight those in your KPI widgets than having them go through all of that data all over again. Labels and text, use legends, use lesser data points again, and use tooltips and hover text wherever possible. And it is the age of icons. So wherever you can replace a label with an icon, but don't go overboard with it, but you can always do that. Now, coming to a very important aesthetic principle, which is the color palette. Avoid going overboard with your branding. Unlike what most people think, choosing your color palette does not have to depend on your brand. And if you do really want to have a lot of branding going on in your dashboard, I'll suggest you go and look for color wheels online and find a great palette that balances it out, that is easy to the eyes and still does have your branding in it. Avoid colored labels or text. Sometimes understanding your user demographics, like based on age or something, you can, it's not easier to read colored font. So make sure that readability is always in perspective when you're using colors. Colorify with purpose. Colors are not meant just for beautification of your dashboard. Definitely, having colors does make your dashboard look beautiful, but that's not what they're meant for. If you use them consistently with metrics, then people will get used to the insights that you're presenting, and it'll kind of flatten the learning curve for people. They just know what they're looking at because human cognition tells them this color is for this particular metric. Stay clear of the alert colors. If red, green, and orange is in alert zone for you, don't use them elsewhere on your dashboard. The rainbow mess. This more colors the merrier, said no designer ever. Because if you were going to go with that, you will end up with the icons like Google has today. Don't go overboard with branding and don't go overboard with colors. Sometimes on your visualizations, when you've chosen a color to represent a certain bar or a certain dimension or a certain metric, what happens is too many data points can actually end up in a rainbow mess for your visualizations. Avoid that. Contrast. Contrast is a very powerful thing. It improves readability. It draws attention to where you want the users to look at. That's why sometimes our major KPI metrics that we keep them like on a good contrast color scale. Buttons and actions that you want the user to take also should have great contrast built in them. So I don't have much time to like delve into much rules of contrast, but I've kind of laid out a couple of examples here. One is of a dark mode on a dashboard, and you can see a couple of contrast examples right here in the bottom example. Whenever choosing colors on your contrast, reduce the strength of the color, reduce the saturation of the color, make it easy to the eyes. Okay, and whenever you're using contrast on your widgets, make sure that readability is not affected. Buttons contrast, there are a couple of examples here. I'm sure with a little practice, you do great with these. So I'm signing off in this one, letting you know that analytics needs to be an enterprise-wide habit. And if you need to do that, then that habit needs to be easy to form. And the best way to do would be to attract your audience.